Hello, everybody, and welcome into a bonus edition of the Caregiver Conversation series by Carallel. My name is Matt Perrin, Director of Caregiver Engagement here at Carallel, and excited to have you join us today. And we're talking today about a topic. I guess these topics are all near and dear to my heart, but this one really is because it hits at the core of something that I really struggled with in my 8.5 years caring for my mom. But we're talking about streamlining communication and rallying community while caregiving. So to do that, I can't think of a better guest to talk about this with than Stephanie Schmid, a leader at CaringBridge. How are you, Stephanie?
Great. Nice to be here, Matt. Appreciate you having us.
Oh, thanks for being here. Really, really appreciate it. Now, Stephanie, I have a little bit of housekeeping. I'm tempted to have you tell us all about CaringBridge right off the start, but we're going to save that. You're just so thrilled you're here, and I want I truly believe the world's a better place for having CaringBridge in it for people to just gain assistance in navigating a health journey. But we're going to save that, and I'm just going to do some quick housekeeping as we get started here today. First and foremost, if you're joining us for the first time, thanks for being here. We are Carallel. Carallel is a caregiver support company. We support, guide, and assist anyone who's helping a loved one due to aging, illness, disability, what have you. And we provide that support in two primary ways. First and foremost, in a personalized one-on-one fashion through our care advocate team over the phone, email, and chat. And we complement that human first support with My Care Desk by Carallel, which is our digital experience, 24/7, one-stop shop for all your caregiving needs. And we make our service available through health insurance plans and employers across the country. So welcome again if this is your first time joining. Second piece of housekeeping, Stephanie, is the most important, and it's the fact that these are conversations by design. So no slides today, no presentation. It's just a conversation about difficult caregiving topics, and in this case, streamlining communication and rallying community. So I think that's all the housekeeping. And Stephanie, I'm really, so as I mentioned, this topic is something that weighed on me. Can you tell us, just to get us started, a little bit about CaringBridge? I hope everybody is familiar with it on this call, because everyone should be familiar with it. Absolutely wonderful organization. Can you give us a 50,000-foot view as we're getting started on CaringBridge?
Sure, Matt. So CaringBridge is a nonprofit, and we are a health platform that is designed for family caregivers. And it's designed to help those family caregivers support their loved one as they're going through a health journey. And it can be any health journey, any health journey, from cancer to a broken bone. And you need to communicate out what's happening, and you also need to maybe get some support in a variety of different ways to help you through that journey. So CaringBridge has been around for about 26 years and helping family caregivers for those many, many years, and providing them and surrounding them with support they need during a really difficult time.
I love it. 26 years. Wow. It just early into the space, which I love to hear. 26 years. And so I appreciate that, just for the audience's sake, but for mine as well. And can we talk about, as we're getting started, the heart of the matter for this conversation anyway? And as I was thinking about our talk here today, Stephanie, I sort of, simplifying communication and rallying community. Of course, those two things are related, but I sort of separated them a little bit in my head. Just because, as I'm prone to do, I sort of these sessions really do come from my heart and my soul, based on my experience with my own family. And the streamlining is such a good word for it would have been an elixir. It's what I needed on the communication side when I was caring for my mom, because I knew I had to communicate. I knew people wanted to know what was happening. I knew I had to do that, but it was so disparate in nature. I had to email these people, I had to text message these others, I had to just call these other people on the phone. So that just, I just wanted to get that off my chest. It was such, and I don't know if people on the phone feel that way, but for me, that was something that was, it became a real stressor over time. Just the fact that I knew I had to do it, but I didn't have one just easy way to do it all, right? I had to do it over and over and over again. So, I mean, what are your thoughts on that, just personally, or from a CaringBridge point of view, on that need to streamline piece?
Yeah, and you touched on it, Matt. People are super overwhelmed, right? There's the need to communicate, and sometimes, messages get passed along, or you've asked a friend or family member to help you, and all of a sudden there's different messages, and you need to communicate when you need to, and the information that you want to communicate. And CaringBridge really helps you do that. So you can invite your family and friends, and frankly, you can invite as few people or as many people as you want, and you can set different privacy levels. Sometimes that information is very sensitive. And so it really puts control in the caregiver's hands to decide how to communicate, how frequently, who to include in that communication. And it really keeps things simple, right? And it organizes information, and it helps you communicate with a lot of people, or as few as you'd like, as I mentioned, all at once, because it's very overwhelming. And we hear from caregivers, they're overwhelmed, they're isolated, and they feel alone. And this is one of the first things you can do to help just kind of get at that stressor, as you talked about. So how to eliminate that stress by giving you the control to communicate. And then when people ask, to say, go check the CaringBridge page. I put everything on CaringBridge, and that way you can control that conversation and make it easier and simpler for yourself.
I love just the notion of simplifying. And something else you just sparked another thought, Stephanie, is for me, there was the just the weight of knowing I had to do this thing, right? In my case, send emails to these people, call these people, etc. So I'm just eating up just have one place to do it once, to broadcast it out to everybody. But the other piece is there was baggage that came along with the communication. Baggage that I had my guard up for, right? Like additional questions or follow-ups, judgment, right? In some cases, stuff like that. And I feel like having, something like CaringBridge at my disposal would sort of make it easier for me to just brush that baggage to the side and get the updates out that I need to get out. I mean,
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And you can decide how much you want to communicate or what you don't want to communicate. And the great thing is that we see mostly the messages that come back at the caregiver are supportive and loving and helpful and thoughtful, and really putting out positivity to that caregiver when they need that support most. So you can control the message, and no matter how much or how little you share, we found that overwhelmingly the responses that are coming back are really, really supportive. And then that can help you in that journey of how much to communicate and when, because you're seeing and feeling that support that you're getting from the people that you've invited in.
Yeah, and you're segueing naturally into the rallying community part of this. I guess, and so let's talk about that, because that was another thing that I knew I needed to do, and really wanted to do, right? Because if people have cared for a loved one, many of whom on the line today are in the midst of that, that the weight of that responsibility is more than anybody should have to carry on their own, or be expected to carry on their own. And we need a community around us, a village, all this stuff. And we talk a lot at Carallel about a circle of care, and that's a lot of the work we do in helping caregivers, is help them actually build that circle of care, right? And figure out who should be in it. And family and friends are the obvious part, but what are the other service providers or organizations or entities or tools that should be included, right? So how do people use it to rally community? How do people use CaringBridge in that way? Are they doing it? Are you finding caregivers are doing it themselves, or are they delegating somebody in their circle to use the the solution? How does it work?
Yeah, I love that you asked that question because we do find that caregivers who start a page, those that actually get what we call a co-author are often more supported. So they might ask a family member or a friend to help write the updates or help coordinate and get, services or different things that they need for that loved one going through a health journey. So there's lots of different ways to rally that community. Part of it is just that support that I mentioned that comes back at you, right? That positivity of helping you feel like you're not alone because they're providing these words of encouragement. There's also the ability to rally support by using a couple of things that we have within CaringBridge. And one is a GoFundMe and being able to help from a financial perspective. If you need to set up a GoFundMe to help fray costs, that is a great way that you can rally your community by setting up a GoFundMe in CaringBridge. We also have Meal Train, and we know that nobody needs 10 lasagnas, maybe not in one day, over time. And so Meal Train or other ways to coordinate food, for example, can be really helpful to do it in CaringBridge. So there are people that already know what you're going through, and we know it's hard to ask for help. We know, and we hear this, we see this all the time from caregivers. People will say, "How can I help?" And caregivers often say, "I'm not sure," right? And so CaringBridge allows you, when you've got the time and you're ready, you know what you need to ask for help to do that. And we've got a couple of tools today. We're also building some tools for next year that will help make it even easier to ask for help, whether it's transportation to appointments, for example, or food or finances. And so we're working on how to make that even easier to rally your community to help you when you need it.
Yeah, I love so many of those points, Stephanie. And something just occurred to me as you were talking, which is, and it hadn't occurred to me before, but the notion of just having something tangible, in this case, the CaringBridge page, right, can be a sort of ongoing, omnipresent sort of tool in not just for streamlining the communication, but for rallying the troops, so to speak. So and I hadn't thought about that before, but it's this living and breathing thing, this page that people can refer to, on their own time, just outside of when communication is being broadcast through it, right? I mean, am I thinking about it the right way?
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah, it's a two-way, right? So as a caregiver or helper, you talked about the helper, right? You might be communicating updates out about health updates or needs that you have. And then on the other side of it, the community can also provide support or say, "Hey, on Tuesdays, I can help do childcare." So there's really a two-way street in how CaringBridge can be that tool to provide that support. So it helps caregivers feel less alone, less overwhelmed, more supported, and having that support surround them through the whole journey, which we know can be, you mentioned yourself, was 8.5 years. It can be a long time. It can be months, weeks, or it can be years. And we see people pulse up and down with their CaringBridge page when they need it, because healthcare is not or health conditions rather are not a linear path. They have ups and downs, and that's an easy way to engage CaringBridge to help update and get the help you need when you need it.
Yeah, I love that. And such a really just important point. And we feel the same, by the way, at Carallel, which is, just the time continuum, upon which someone is caring for a loved one. It varies completely, but often, to your point, can be a long time. And we see a similar sort of dynamic, Stephanie, at Carallel, which is, we're working with people over time, right?
Right.
But at the times they need us, right? Not all the time, right? Just like, so very analogous to what you just described. We do have a perspective that just popped into the chat from, and so first off, thank you for sharing your perspective. I don't really see a question in here, but such a valuable perspective, which is, my mom lives on her own still. She'll turn 91 in 8 days. Fortunately, we're staying in contact with her twice daily, minimum, but remotely. And then as such, our caregiving shared amongst 4 adults, and they have a private text chain, right? I'm of the mind, whatever works for you, do it, and I love the idea of having, I'm kicking myself over here. I should have had a CaringBridge page for my mom. but whatever works, right? I mean,
Right, right.
um,
Yeah, and we like to make sure people know that your CaringBridge page can be as private and as small of a group as you want or large. I think
mhm,
there's ideas around the internet and social media, even that things are public and broadcast, and you can have a CaringBridge page that's just a small group of people if that's what you choose, and it can change over time, right?
mhm.
It's really about flexibility, and yeah, if a text chain is the way to go, that works great for you. CaringBridge broadens that support a little bit to your broader community. But it's important for all caregivers and to have the support that they need, and there'll be different solutions that work differently.
Yeah. Um, I totally agree. Can we go back to something you mentioned a minute ago, Stephanie? Because like I'm thinking, I think there are. So I think of certain types of situations. I've historically thought of certain types of situations when I thought of CaringBridge, cancer being one. Right? It's compared to, say, for instance, my experience with a mom living with Alzheimer's disease. Um, they're different journeys, right? And
Sure.
dementia just it's less finite, and I don't know if that's just my perception, right? But as it relates to someone using CaringBridge to do all the stuff we're talking about, keep their community rallied, make communication easier and less of a stressor, all that stuff, it really doesn't matter, right? It could be any situation. To your point, I just want to underscore like your opening line, which is something along the lines of could be anything from cancer to a broken bone, right?
Right.
Can we talk about that for a second? Just because I think
Yeah.
that's important to understand, because I could see people, if they see their situation outside of what they perceive it to be for, they won't go check it out, right?
Right. Yeah, I think that's a great point. And cancer is the number one reason folks use CaringBridge, but I see every day people using CaringBridge if it's a difficult pregnancy, if it's a broken bone and you need, help getting support, and you need to communicate out because again, you're getting all the texts and the calls, what's going on, how can we help? And this is a way to simplify that, right? And be less overwhelmed in that communication. So it can be used for everything from, like I mentioned, cancer to a broken bone to Alzheimer's, and knowing that we talked about this, right? It's not a linear health journey, especially in dementia or Alzheimer's as an example. And that's okay, right? You can use it when you need it, and when you don't, it's there for you. So there's a lot of flexibility in the opportunity.
I love it. I love it. I'm just looking at the clock, so we're at 19 past. So I want to, before I forget, first off, I guess if there are questions or other people have perspectives to share, please do. We'd love to hear from you. While in saying that, I'm going to put I want to put your URL, Stephanie, in the chat so people
Great.
can reach.
And while you're doing that, Matt, I mentioned it early on, but I will just mention we are a nonprofit. And I think that's something not everyone knows about CaringBridge. We've been a nonprofit largely since our inception, and we're supported by people who use CaringBridge, which is really, really quite amazing. It's no cost to use, and it's supported by donors.
I was just going to ask you, we're great minds think alike. It's like we've done this before.
Right.
Yeah, no, but I love it. So no cost, nonprofit. I just put the link in the chat, but can we talk, we make it a habit, or try to anyway, Stephanie, on these sessions to get as practical as we can. So, and people have the URL now, it's in the chat, it's caringbridge.org. It's very simple. But can you talk a little bit about what it's like for a caregiver who's stressed, got a million things going on, probably, to get a page started? Like, what does that process look like? How many steps are there? Like, how much time does it take? That sort of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. We say it takes less than 3 minutes. I think 3 minutes is pretty generous. It can take a lot less than that. We don't collect a lot of data, right? Is the site for you or for a loved one? What's the name of the page? And then we really try to get into that first post right away. So what is it that you want to share? And we're starting to work on prompts to make it easier. Not everyone is a natural writer or can think about, gosh, how do I share this? And so we've got some prompts today I learned, or, I want to share this update. So some prompts to help people get started. We've also got some advice and articles and different posts that help people see how you might want to communicate, or give you examples and advice for communicating with friends and family. Likewise, for friends and family who want to provide support, here are some ways that you could provide support. What does that look like? So we try to make it really easy. A post could be a couple sentences. And frankly, we find some people who write lengthy posts because it's cathartic. And it's a way that helps them heal by communicating or capturing and communicating this information. So it takes just a couple minutes to set up a page or a site. And then you'll want to create that first post, and you'll want to decide who to share it with. And you can always, increase that group over time.
Oh, that's, 3 minutes or less. That's pretty fantastic. And I guess it's just, I'm just really, my wheels are spinning as you're talking, because so much of, at Carallel, we are sort of, for lack of a better way to put it, kind of a quarterback, right? For the caregiver. We're there for them while they're there for their loved one. And, the support we provide could be anything from just listening. Right? People need a place to vent. They need a place to be heard without judgment, all that stuff. But sometimes it's helping them get access to local programs and benefits and services, or help them with advanced care planning. So from the tangible to intangible, right? And the responsibilities that we carry as caregivers sort of run that range as well, right?
Right.
But a lot of what we do is coaching and helping people give themselves permission, understand that it's okay to ask for help. They need to ask for help, and understand that actually asking for help is more often than not a win-win, because people typically want to help. They don't really know how to ask, and that sort of stuff. So it's fascinating hearing about the way you're at CaringBridge enabling all of that, right? And just making it easy for people to cut through so much of the stuff that's on the periphery, be it emotional or otherwise, to do that.
Yeah, and I would share, we were just looking actually at some information here. 2/3 of CaringBridge caregivers receive a matched offer of support within 24 hours of their request. So it just goes to show how impactful it can be to put that request out there. And it's hard to ask for help. Like you just said, we see the same thing. Caregivers universally, it's hard to ask for help. But when you do, you'll get the support that you need pretty quickly, which is phenomenal. There's a very supportive community usually behind and around every caregiver.
Yeah, I love that. And I don't want to put you on the spot, but I think it's worth mentioning, because you're talking about some of what I imagine is your CaringBridge data that you see from users. But one of the things that I was struck by as we were getting prepared for this conversation and planning it was the sheer just reach of CaringBridge, right?
Sure.
Like, we're not talking about just a few caregivers who are using your wonderful tool. It is lots and lots of people, right? I mean, can you give people a sense of how many people this is are benefiting from this?
Yeah, so every day there's about 300,000 people on CaringBridge, and they're either sharing an update on a health journey, or they've come to express support. And one of the things that I love the most is every hour, so just in half the time that we'll have talked, every hour though, 1,600 messages of love, hope, and compassion are posted on CaringBridge. So in the time that we'll be here together, 800 messages of love, hope, and compassion, which is really, it shows you the power of support and love and hope, and how we know the family caregiver being supported really is so beneficial. It's proven to help the outcome of the patient or the loved one they're caring for. So it's really important, whether it's Carallel, CaringBridge, to have those tools to support that caregiver who's doing one of the most important jobs they'll ever do.
Yeah, I that's pretty, I mean, those numbers are hard for me to even get my head around. So that's just awesome. Unbelievable. So we are, I told you time would fly when we were having fun, and it did. We're at 26 past the hour. One last call for questions for Stephanie about CaringBridge, for anything, sharing perspectives, please do that. I guess, Stephanie, this has been so helpful. First off, thank you. And, as I've mentioned a couple of times, it's just really fascinating to see just the way you're enabling such an important step for so many people.
Mhm.
Because we talk with so many people all of the time who just haven't gotten there yet, right? They're still carrying it for any number of reasons, but carrying it all on their own. Are there parting thoughts you have for the audience as we're wrapping up? Anything you'd
I
like
would
to
just
share?
say, I think there's recognition that it's overwhelming to be a caregiver, and to know you're not alone, and to find that community of either, chosen people in your network, or working with services like your own. It's really important as caregivers for social and emotional health to have that support. And I think, CaringBridge has a lot of resources, even just articles, without creating a page that would help provide folks with just more information, maybe some ideas and tools. Just important to get the support you need, because your loved one depends on it too.
Yeah. Agree. And my parting thought would be a reminder, actually. So a reminder that the CaringBridge URL is in the chat, which you should see down in the bottom of your window. There's a little chat icon. That'll if you click that, that'll pop out a window on the right side of your screen. So check it out. And I guess I just reinforces a lot of what we talk about in these sessions consistently, regardless of topic, that there are people who want to help, and tools and services and organizations that can help, sort of all around us often. And it's just it sometimes can be easy to forget that when we're in the midst of it. So I hope that my hope for today's call is that people, if you came to this discussion not familiar with CaringBridge, that you do check it out, because it can help just cut through some of this noise that we're talking about. If for nothing else, Stephanie, by the way, writing something long form, even if it's not shared, like that was one of my personal go-tos, was writing. And I would sometimes just open a screen and just start typing away. And sometimes it would be sensical what came out, other times it wouldn't. But I usually felt a little bit better after doing it. So I love that point you made too. But hope everyone checks CaringBridge out. This was a bonus session. We do have our regularly scheduled session on the 26th of October, which is, I recognize, before Halloween. However, we will be talking about 5 practical tips to use to ease our holiday stress as caregivers. So I'll be joined by a cast of characters from our Care Advocate team for that session. But Stephanie, this was wonderful. Thank you very much for joining us. And thanks to the audience as well.
Thanks, Matt. Take care.
Okay, take care, everyone. Bye now.